Hello again. So this one's gonna be interesting because this is the first one of these I've tried to do where I had to go to a theater that wasn't right, 15 feet from the apartment. So I've got a little bit longer of a drive, and I don't know if I have enough to cover all of it. So this might be one of the first one of these I have to edit. So I just got out of Eye in the Sky, which, if you haven't heard of it, I'm not real surprised. It hasn't really, at least not that I've seen, hasn't really been advertised that much. I heard about it first as a trailer on a DVD for a British movie called Man Up that I bought, and that was the first time I heard of it. And when I went and saw Batman v Superman, it was part of that stupid, whatever they call that thing that happens before the trailers, as you're coming into the theater. Only when I went and saw Batman v Superman, none of that, like the visuals weren't working, so you got a very low audio on it. So even then, you didn't hear much. But 1 second, so I can make this turn. And okay, and we're back. So, if you haven't heard of this movie, Eye in the Sky, it has Helen Mirren and the late great Alan Rickman, and it's this film where, trying to sum up real quick, this mission to have a drone strike on this group of terrorists as they prepare for a suicide bombing is kind of put on hold because this little girl is out in front of the building that they're about to bomb selling bread, and it's this whole thing of, do they fire, do they not fire, do you risk, one life for all the ones that are going to be, destroyed by this suicide bomb. And they go to a great lengths to kind of show they have proof that this bombing is going to happen. This isn't like they're assuming. They've got cameras and they can see everything. So it's this political kind of drama of, what are the consequences, what's legal, what's, the propaganda war, is it okay to use drones and all that. I'm not really doing it justice, trying to just get the point across of what it's about. So if you haven't seen it or you haven't heard of it and you want to check it out, it's down here at Ridgeway if you're here in Tennessee or in the Memphis area, which I love the Ridgeway Theater, so I was happy to come out here. What do I think? On the whole, I think it was a really good movie. I'm not going to say it was great or perfect, but I thought it was a very interesting film. And some of the stuff I liked about it is that I haven't seen a movie like this in a really long time. This movie, despite having some really great actors in it, is not one of those movies where, and this is going to sound weird, where there's a lot of acting going on. Nobody gives up and gives an impassioned speech. There's no big climactic moment. Everything about this movie is very subtle, very underplayed, almost like you're watching a documentary as opposed to a film. And I don't mean like it's a found footage kind of thing or a mockumentary. I just mean in terms of the acting choices, the directing choices, and all that. It's very low key. The best thing I can think of to compare it to, I don't know how many people out there have seen anymore. I know some people my age have, but it reminds me of a film called Tora Tora Tora, which was a film done about all the events leading up to the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And much like that movie, this one again, it's it gives you the facts. And this didn't say anywhere it was inspired by a true story or anything, so it's not like that. But this movie just gives you the information of this is what happens, and leaves it up to you to kind of make the interpretations of, was this wrong, was this right, or if nothing else, to ask the question. I think what I really like about this movie is I came out of it kind of questioning things, and I think that's what a movie like this should do. It's what a good movie, that's what it should do for an audience, and it did that for me. I can say I don't believe it had that effect on some of my fellow audience members. When I drove down to see the film, I was like an hour early, so I'm sitting in the lobby reading, and this woman is sitting next to me with her wine, and she starts going off about how the movie was so terrible and so awful. Just blow them up, just blow them up. And her husband comes. She walked out of the movie. Her husband comes out, and she's like, "You sat through the whole movie?" He's like, "Well, that's what happens when you let liberals rule the world." So I don't think it had the same effect on them. And in a way, I can kind of see their point, because one of the things the movie did, and I can't even say if it did well, because I don't know if this was intended, is like it really also tried to show the mechanics of what goes into a mission like that. That it's not just the drone goes up, and the military guy says, do it, and it's done. No, they gotta check with this person. They gotta check with that person. If this person's not sure, they gotta pass the buck up to the next person. And if that person not sure, it's like, well, check with this person. So there's this whole almost farcical element to certain aspects of the film. The audience laughed, and I did too. A couple times whenever they're like, do we have clearance to proceed? Do we have clearance to proceed? And the guy's like, I gotta get approval from this guy, and everybody in the room going, And again, I don't know if it was trying to be funny in that instance, kind of making a statement about, the hierarchy and the bureaucracy that has to go on, or if it was just kind of, again, just showing you what happens. But if it was the intent, then it did it well. If it wasn't the intent, then that was an issue that I think maybe they needed to go back and maybe see if they could do it a little differently. Because after a while, it did get very kind of, oh shit, now who do we have to go talk to? So that was a thing. And I also really like, again, because it's a film that just kind of gives you the facts and doesn't make. That's the thing I really like, is it doesn't give you a moral judgment. It also doesn't give you. It doesn't necessarily give you a good guy or a bad guy. There's no general just sitting there. Alan Rickman, who plays the general, and of course he's Alan Rickman, so of course he's awesome. He's not in there just going, kill them all, who cares, kill them. No, he's presenting a logical argument, and the people who are against the strike are also presenting a logical argument. And there's nobody in here that really feels like they're, just there to be on a soapbox for the opposite team, and I like that. I find a problem with films kind of in this genre, or any film where the filmmaker has an agenda, good or bad, because but when you have an instance where a filmmaker has a specific agenda, what tends to happen a lot of times is things get very melodramatic and very black and white very quickly. You kind of go in knowing this guy's evil, these people are the right one. I mean, it becomes a James Cameron movie. Does anybody go to a James Cameron movie and not know who the bad guy is? I mean, it's not he tries to be so deep, but that's another rant. Let's not get off of that. But this movie doesn't do that. It does have one character that's kind of annoying, and that's I forget who she was, but she was like the British. She was somebody in the British government who's there in the room with Alan Rickman, and she's the first one who says, "No, don't fire it." And at the end of the film, she has this little tiny mini speech of, "Well, I thought that was just disgusting. You did all this and all from the comfort of your chair." And Alan Rickman, in classic, very calm and cool Alan Rickman-esque, just kind of tells her, I've been a soldier all my life. I've been on the ground when horrible things happen. So don't ever tell a soldier that he doesn't know the cost of war. And I liked the end speech from Alan Rickman. I felt like that line coming out of that female character right then, that was pushing it over a little bit. I felt like they've done a pretty good job of giving this an even hand and showing everybody kind of in an even light, how you can understand everybody's position. But then throwing that in there just felt a little tacked on and a little bit too much of a, gotcha moment. So I don't know. I didn't really like that part, and in that moment, that actor kind of broke that, again, very naturalistic, very neutral kind of performing, and got semi-emotional. She didn't get melodramatic. She wasn't terrible in that moment. I think she played it as best she could with the lines she was given. But so that moment didn't work for me. But on the whole, I think this was a great movie, and like I said, a great movie that I now leave, and even watching it, because there's a part of me, I'm not necessarily proud of this part of me, but there's that part of me that watches a situation like that in a movie or something, and you're like, yeah, blow them to hell. I mean, go for it. But then you have to stop and ask your question. As they did, they keep saying, this one little girl will die, but we can save at least 80 people. They were just kind of pulling that 80. They kept saying 80 people, like I think I pulled that number out of air. So where does the good of the many outweigh the need of the few? Or to quote another Star Trek movie, to quote Captain Picard from Insurrection, well, how many people does it take before it becomes wrong? And also this great thing, I mentioned kind of the buck passing a little bit. I need approval from this guy, I need approval from that guy. But then it kind of made me ask the question, well, do you want to be the person that orders an action that is going to kill an innocent child? Do you want that on your conscience for whatever that's worth? So I think this film did a really great job of asking the questions, not answering them for you, not like saying, all drones are icky, stinky, driven by big duty heads, and everybody's evil who uses them, or anything like that. It just presented you with the situation, with the facts of the situation, and said, this is what happened in this fictional scenario. This is what happened, and now it is up to you to decide whether it was right or wrong. And you don't see a lot of movies like that anymore. People don't want movies like that anymore, as kind of, illustrated by the two folks who kind of came out of it before me and were just all ready to go gung-ho. And I'm not even saying they're necessarily wrong in their belief. I mean, there is that kind of situation, like, these people are going to blow something up. Yeah, take them out, So I'm not even trying to say that they were wrong in their belief. What I'm just saying is that you don't see a lot of movies that kind of have the guts to kind of challenge you and to make you think about those things and ask yourself, is this right or wrong? So this is a good movie. Again, the status I always use for how good of a movie is would I buy it on DVD? Probably not, just because while it is a good movie, it's not one of those movies that I think I need to own so I can watch it 150 times. I have a few films like that. I love Citizen Kane, but I don't get home from a hard day of work and go, I need to relax, I'm going to throw Citizen Kane on. And this is kind of one of those films. The last thing I'm going to say before I kind of close this one out is this was if this wasn't his last movie, this is one of his last movies, and I'm speaking, of course, of Alan Rickman. And it's weird that we kind of think of a person's last performance, their last thing. And I think this was a good one. It was very subtle. So if you're going in there looking for Professor Snape or Hans Gruber or any of these other roles that he's known for, you're not going to get that. But what you get is these little moments of humor from him. He has this really cute bit at the opening, like they're opening the movie with all these people getting ready to go to war and getting ready to do this drone strike, and he's in a toy store trying to buy a doll for either his daughter or his granddaughter or somebody's on the phone with his wife, like, yeah, there's like 100 of them. Which one does she want? Does she want a talking one or a sleeping one? And of course, he's doing it in Alan Rickman, so it's 10 times more subtle and about 1,000,000 times more funny. So, if this is in fact his last film, I think it's one that is a very fitting kind of swan song, a very dignified exit to a really great actor. I know sometimes you never get to pick what your last performance is. I'm sure Raul Julia probably would have preferred his final theatrical release not be Street Fighter, but in the same way, Raul Julia made that movie awesome in a very crappy way. So in closing, yeah, this was a good film. Alan Rickman is brilliant. If you like, be aware going in. If you decide you want to go see this, this is not an action-packed Bourne Identity kind of spy thriller. It's meticulous, it's procedural, it's a little slow in places. So it takes a little while to get going, takes a little while to get into it. I think it's a British film, so that makes sense. They like their kind of slow burns. So don't go in there expecting this to be, a Bond film, because it's not. But if you like these kind of movies and you like plays, if you're a theater person and you're watching this and you like, things like a lot of plays I've enjoyed, like Antigone or Back of the Throat, or these plays that kind of show both sides of a scenario of a no-win situation and tell you how do you pick, then you might enjoy this one. So, it's Eye in the Sky. It's only at Ridgeway here in Tennessee. If you're in Alaska or somewhere looking for this, I don't know where. This might be at the Bear Tooth or something like that. But if you're in the mood for a think piece, something that's does a really good job of making you think, and maybe a little bit of a palate cleanser between all these action, adventure, summer blockbusters with all these explosions, I'd say check this one out. So that's my opinion. Thanks a lot for joining me, and we will see you next time.